Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arhato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arhato Samma Sambuddhassa Sadhu. So today's sutta is a kind of an interesting sutta from Samyutta Nikaya. The name of the sutta is the Conch Blower. So we call it Shankhnad in India. The conch is blown for many purposes, like for starting of the war or for kind of signifying some good occasion. So it's an auspicious kind of a sign or an auspicious kind of a gesture, the conch when it is blown. So over here, yes.
Bhante, can you share the number of the sutta, please?
I have the document. One second.
Oh, thank you.
I have to go to my computer. This, oh, there is an IO disk error. I don't know why this is IO disk error is coming. I'll share the I'll share a link so you can download this. I think this is something which had happened in the past also. So maybe it does not take this thing from another source. So I'll try one more thing. One second. I copy this to the main folder. Copy into documents. From here, go to my computer. Documents. Okay. So it will not take documents from another source. It has to be on the computer. So I've shared it now. So, and I can share the link also. This is a link of the Google Drive and the document also I have shared. So this is Samyutta Nikaya 42.8 The Conch Blower, the sutta number. So on this sutta has something interesting. One is that Buddha rarely compares his teaching with other kind of teachers' teaching. The other thing is, it can be seen that there is some similarities between Buddha's kind of precepts, which is given to the lay people. As Buddha gives 5 precepts, but other teachers used to give in the time of the Buddha and before the time of the Buddha 4 precepts. So that is a kind of a distinction which is there, and how they used to teach the precepts. So this is a rare occasion we can kind of see how Buddha had a finer understanding or a deeper understanding of the same teachings which are there, and how it changes the whole result of the teaching by kind of following the teaching exactly like the Buddha is saying. Then how the meaning of the teaching changes, the kind of the texture of the teaching which changes, and how you implement it changes. And on the surface, it may seem like those teachings are the same. So it's a very kind of an interesting sutta. On one occasion, the Blessed One was dwelling at Nalanda in Paravika's mango grove. Nalanda is a place after Buddha's time, a long time after the Buddha, there is a big university which was opened for the study of Buddha's teachings, and it was there for a long time. Currently they are kind of trying to revive this Nalanda tradition or Nalanda University in many places, like in Japan, Thailand, also in India. They are trying to revive this. Then Asi Bandhaka Putta, the headman, a lay disciple of Nigantha's, approached the Blessed One. The Blessed One then said to him as he was sitting to one side. Nigantha Nataputta, which is mentioned in many of the texts, is generally considered to be Jain, Mahavir Jain. But it cannot be kind of 100% said it is Mahavir Jain or not, because there was many kind of agreed upon changes in the religion of Jainism. Like they had two sects and they kind of merged their kind of belief systems. They merged their Tirthankars, they used to call it. So they had kind of previous kind of enlightened beings. They considered Tirthankars. So there was a kind of agreed upon changes in the religion of Jainism. So, but it is commonly considered to be the kind of proto-Jainism, maybe the early Jainism. So Nigantha Nataputta. In that way, Headman, in what way, Headman, does Nigantha Nataputta teach the Dhamma to his disciples? Venerable Sir, Nigantha Nataputta teaches the Dhamma to his disciples thus: anyone at all who destroys life is bound for a state of misery, bound for hell. Anyone at all who takes what is not given is bound for a state of misery, bound for hell. Anyone at all who engages in sexual misconduct is bound for a state of misery, bound for hell. Anyone at all who speaks falsehood is bound for a state of misery, bound for hell. One is led on to rebirth by the manner in which one usually dwells. It is in such a way, Venerable Sir, that Nigantha Nataputta teaches the Dhamma to his disciples. So one thing we have to notice is in the precepts, there is a precept of lying. But Buddha refines that precept more by saying that you should not also have the divisive speech. You should not have ideal chatter. You should not have speech which is harsh speech. So Buddha kind of refines that precept. Another thing is that Buddha gives the fifth precept, which is for not to indulge in intoxicants. So there is a difference in that way how the precepts are there. But in the way the precepts, breaking the precept, what happens? So over here, Nigantha Nataputta is saying that anyone who breaks the precept, he is definitely bound for hell. But he also says a contradictory statement. The contradictory statement is also pointed out by the Buddha. It is in such a way, Venerable Sir. So if you say one is led on to rebirth by the manner in which one usually dwells. So when a person usually does something, that way he will be getting his results. That is what he is saying. If Headman, if it were the case that one is led to rebirth by the manner in which one usually dwells, then according to Nigantha Nataputta's word, no one at all would be bound for a state of misery, bound for hell. What do you think, Headman? In the case of a person who destroys life, if one compares one occasion with another, whether by day or by night, which is more frequent, the occasions when he is destroying life or those when he is not doing so? So Buddha is pointing out that if one kind of gains the next life based on the usual activities, not everybody is all the time killing. Even if there is a professional butcher, he will be kind of killing for maybe a few hours in a day. But then rest of the hours he is not killing. So what is the more time he is spending? He is spending time killing, or he is spending time doing something else for the rest of the time. In the case of a person who destroys life and rebels, if one compares one occasion with another, whether by day or by night, the occasion when he is destroying life are infrequent, while those when he is not doing so are frequent. So Headman, if it were the case that one is led by rebirth by the manner in which one usually dwells, then according to Nigantha Nataputta's word, no one at all would be bound for a state of misery, bound for hell. What do you think, Headman? In the case of a person who takes what is not given, who engages in sexual misconduct, who speaks falsehood, if one compares one occasion with another, whether by day or by night, which is more frequent, the occasions when he is speaking falsehood or those when he is not speaking falsehood. In the case of a person who speaks falsehood, Venerable Sir, one compares one occasion with another, whether by day or by night. The occasion when he is speaking falsehood are infrequent, while those when he is not speaking falsehood are frequent. So he is also admitting that that is the case for any kind of breaking of precepts. Not everybody is doing that all the time, but there are occasions when a person breaks the precept. So headman, if it were the case that one is led to rebirth by a manner in which one usually dwells, then according to Nigantha Nataputta's words, no one at all would be bound for a state of misery, bound for hell. Here, headman, some teacher holds such a doctrine and view as this: anyone at all who destroys life, who takes what is not given, who engages in sexual misconduct, who speaks falsehood is bound for a state of misery, is bound for hell. Then a disciple has full confidence in that teacher. It occurs to him, my teacher holds such a doctrine and view as this: anyone at all who destroys life is bound for a state of misery, bound for hell. Now I have destroyed life, so I too am bound for a state of misery, bound for hell. Thus he acquires such a view. If he does not abandon that assertion and that state of mind, and if he does not relinquish that view, then according to his deserts, he will be as it were dropped off in hell. So now Buddha is saying that there is another kind of problem with the teaching of the Nigantha Nataputta. One is that when he says that one is destined to another life based on the way he kind of behaves, then it does not fall correct because more time he spends not breaking the precepts. But if he also believes the teacher that anybody who breaks a precept is kind of being born in hell, then also what the person will do is they will kind of have a mindset that I am bound for hell, because he has made his mindset in such a way and he's inclined his mind to such a way that he is going to hell. Then even if he was not supposed to go to hell, he will end up in hell, as if he is kind of picked up and dropped there, because he's acquiring guilt. He is acquiring that sense of going to a destination of misery, going to a destination of hell. So that is the reason he will go where his mind has been inclined. So that also is a danger in the teaching which is being given over here. It occurs to him, my teacher holds such a doctrine as and view as this: anyone at all who takes what is not given is bound for a state of misery, bound for hell. Now I have taken what is not given, so I too am bound for a state of misery, bound for hell. Thus he acquires such a view. If he does not abandon that assertion, he will be, as it were, dropped off in hell. It occurs to him, my teacher holds such a doctrine and view as this: anyone who at all who engages in sexual misconduct is bound for a state of misery, bound for hell. Now I have engaged in sexual misconduct, so I too am bound for a state of misery, bound for hell. Thus he acquires such a view. If he does not abandon that assertion, he will be, as it were, dropped off in hell. It occurs to him, my teacher holds such a doctrine and view as this: anyone at all who speaks falsehood is bound for a state of misery, bound for hell. Now I have spoken falsehood, so I too am bound for a state of misery, bound for hell. Thus he acquires such a view. If he does not abandon that assertion, he will be, as it were, dropped off in hell. So in all the cases, he may kind of acquire guilt, and because of this guilt, he may end up in hell. One interesting thing is that my mother was interested in one Indian guru. He had an art of dying. I think I now just escaping his name, but he used to Baba Shivanand. He had an art of dying, Baba Shivanand, and he used to kind of teach past life regression. And one thing he used to say is that many of the cases when he kind of investigated past life regression, that he found that most of the people who are suffering in this life, the current life, is because they have taken up guilt of something which they have not done. One case he kind of explains it is about brother and a sister. The sister is a elder sister. She is kind of working over there in the field, and the brother kind of walks into the traffic and gets killed. And she kind of creates this guilt that this is my fault. I should have kind of taken care of my brother. But there was nothing she could have done. She was doing her job, which her parents had given her. So she was there in the field doing her thing. And his brother kind of was a very small kid and ran and into the traffic. Because she had acquired this guilt and said that it is my fault. That is because of the brother has been was killed. Then in the next life, she kind of was in a very miserable kind of situation. Then this guru says that I kind of saw her past life and kind of explained to her that this was not her fault. When she kind of gave up that guilt, then her life improved in this life itself. Her situation changed. Her guilt, she was feeling something guilty without understanding, but then she kind of understood why this is happening, and then she gave up guilt. So in this way, the Buddha is also explaining that you don't have to take up guilt which is not your guilt. So you have to be careful what you kind of think, what you kind of accept, what you kind of believe in. So you have to be careful in your how you are accepting the thinking. So then he kind of explains further. But here, headman, a Tathagata arises in the world, an Arahan, perfectly enlightened, accomplished in true knowledge and conduct, fortunate, knower of the world, unsurpassed leader of the persons to be tamed, teacher of devas and humans, the enlightened one, the blessed one. In many ways, he criticizes, censors the destruction of life, and he says, abstain from the destruction of life. He criticizes and censors the taking of what is not given. And he says, abstain from taking what is not given. He criticizes and censors sexual misconduct. And he says, abstain from sexual misconduct. He criticizes and censors false speech. And he says, abstain from false speech. So now the Buddha is using the word false speech, not lies. So false speech has these four things. It has lies also. It has divisive speech. It has idle chatter, and it has harsh speech. All those things are incorporated in the false speech. So the Buddha is kind of refining this precepts also while explaining to the headman. Then a disciple has full confidence in that teacher. That means the Buddha. He reflects thus. In many ways, the Blessed One criticizes and censures the destruction of life. And he says, abstain from the destruction of life. Now, I have destroyed life in such and such an extent. That wasn't proper. That wasn't good. But though I feel regret over this, that evil deed of mine cannot be undone. Having reflected thus, he abandons the destruction of life and he abstains from the destruction of life in the future. Thus, there comes about abandoning of that evil deed. Thus, there comes about the transcending of that evil deed. So, one person understands that, oh, I now understand because of the teaching that taking life is not good. It was not good and I have done something wrong, but I cannot undo that deed. But I can ensure that in the future, I will not do this thing. So it is also a part of teaching is of forgiveness, which Bhante Dhammagavesi kind of stresses. In this retreat, which I am doing currently, also, there are a couple of people who I have given forgiveness meditation. But for surprisingly some reason, they are not ready to forgive. And then they are not even getting the benefit of that teaching, because if you hold on to something and then expect that the situation will change, your mind state will change, then it is not possible. You have to give it up. So in the same way, when somebody reflects that I had done something in the past which was wrong, but I cannot do anything about that, then I forgive. And then I can move on by taking the precept and saying that in the future, I will not do this kind of deed once again. So this is a kind of a very good teaching which is there. It shows you the attitude of the Buddha also, of not kind of burdening you with guilt. He reflects thus: in many ways, the Blessed One criticizes and censors the taking of what is not given. He says, abstain from taking what is not given. Now I have taken what is not given to such and such an extent. That wasn't proper. That wasn't good. But though I feel regret over this, that evil deed of mine cannot be undone. Having reflected thus, he abandons the taking of what is not given, and he abstains from taking what is not given in the future. Thus, there comes about the abandoning of that evil deed. Thus, there comes about transcending that evil deed. He reflects thus: in many ways, the Blessed One criticizes and censors sexual misconduct, and he says, abstain from sexual misconduct. Now I have engaged in sexual misconduct to such and such an extent. That wasn't proper. That wasn't good. But though I feel regret over this, that evil deed of mine cannot be undone. Having reflected thus, he abandons sexual misconduct. He abstains from sexual misconduct in the future. Thus, there comes about the abandoning of that evil deed. Thus, there comes about the transcending of that evil deed. He reflects thus: in many ways, the Blessed One criticizes and censors false speech. And he says, abstain from false speech. Now I have spoken falsehood to such and such extent. That wasn't proper. That wasn't good. But though I feel regret over this, that evil deed of mine cannot be undone. Having reflected thus, he abandons false speech and he abstains from false speech in the future. Thus, there comes about the abandoning of that abandoning of that evil deed. Thus, there comes about the transcending of that evil deed. So he kind of takes the precepts once again and kind of moves on with the life. There is one other sutta in which there is a monk who has a bad habit of drinking. So what happens is that he kind of lapses into drinking. He kind of repents. He again goes back to the normal life, and then again he lapses back into drinking. So in the last instance, what happens is he has already taken the precepts and he has given up drinking, and after that he passes away. And all the bhikkhus are kind of curious, what is his destination? Where did he go? And he goes to the Buddha. They go to the Buddha and ask, where did this bhikkhu kind of get reborn? So the Buddha says this bhikkhu has become a Sotapanna, and he has been reborn in a heavenly realm. So they were very surprised, saying, how can that be? But the Buddha kind of reminds them that this bhikkhu had already taken the precepts before he had passed away. So what he has done is he kind of relinquished his mind and purified his mind by taking the precepts. That's the reason one of the things Bhante Dhammagavesi also used to do when he was working in a hospice. That he would go and read to them the precepts. When he was in Malaysia, he would kind of go and ask them to kind of recite the precepts, 5 precepts. But when he was in America, when he was there in his mother's hospice, there what he used to do is he used to take out the sections from the Bible where there was something related to precepts were given, and ask them to read them. By kind of taking the precepts, you are kind of purifying your mind, and you are making a person kind of relinquish the old habits and take on new habits. In retreats also, Bhante, what he insists on is every morning everybody will take the precepts. So even if they had by mistake broken the precepts in the previous day, when in the morning they take the precepts and start the day, they start afresh. So that's the reason this practice of taking precept daily is being introduced by Bhante Dhammagavesi also. So this is a kind of a nice reminder for us to kind of keep on taking the precepts. Even for monks, they every new moon or the full moon time, they get together and recite the precepts, that they remind themselves. And then before that, they have the confession session. If they have broken any precept, they go to another monk and say, I have broken such and precept. I am kind of confessing, and I'll ensure that I don't do this once again. There are certain precepts he has to kind of go and confess in the Sangha. Some precepts, if he has broken, he can confess privately. And certain precepts, there has to be corrective action done by the Sangha. So there should be 20 monks who come and then they give him a corrective action. So this is also there in the monks' life also, where they kind of repeat the precepts, and they also kind of, if they have broken it, they confess it and ensure that, say that they will not do it in the future. So this is a very kind of good reminder to kind of take these precepts of ours on a regular basis. So where was I? Having abandoned the destruction of life, he abstains from the destruction of life. Having abandoned the taking of what is not given, he abstains from taking what is not given. Having abandoned sexual misconduct, he abstains from sexual misconduct. Having abandoned false speech, he abstains from false speech. Having abandoned divisive speech, he abstains from divisive speech. Having abandoned harsh speech, he abstains from harsh speech. Having abandoned idle chatter, he abstains from idle chatter. Having abandoned covetousness, he is uncovetous, means he is not greedy. Having abandoned ill will and hatred, he has a mind without ill will. Having abandoned wrong view, he has a he is one of right view. So he goes beyond that precepts, and he's kind of clarifying his precepts of speech also over here, the Buddha, and he's also saying that now having done the precepts, he goes beyond that. Now he is kind of purifying his mind states. That is the mind of greed. He's kind of giving up the mind of greed. He's giving up the mind of hatred and ill will. And he is staying with a mind which is without ill will, which is the mind of metta. Having abandoned wrong view, he has one of right view. Right view is the Four Noble Truths and having understanding of the dependent origination and the three characteristics. That is the right view. So he takes on this right view. Then headman, that noble disciple, who is thus devoid of covetousness, devoid of ill will, unconfused, clearly comprehending, ever mindful, dwells pervading one quarter with a mind imbued with loving kindness. Likewise the second, likewise the third, and the fourth quarter. Thus above, below, across, and everywhere, and to all as to one himself, he dwells pervading the entire world with a mind imbued with loving kindness, vast, exalted, measureless, without hostility, without ill will. Just as a strong conch blower can easily send his signal to the four quarters, so too, when the liberation of the mind by loving kindness is developed and cultivated in this way, any limited karma that was done does not remain there, does not persist there. So after he kind of purifies his mind by taking the precepts, he does the Brahma Vihara practice. You are familiar with this directions. So he sends it one direction, the second direction, third direction, fourth direction, up and down. That is 6 directions. He sends the loving kindness. Then as it develops, it becomes compassion. Then it develops, it becomes joy. And then it develops, it becomes equanimity. He pervades one quarter with a mind imbued with compassion, with a mind imbued with altruistic joy, with a mind imbued with equanimity. Likewise the second, likewise the third, likewise the fourth quarter. Thus above, below, across, and everywhere, and to all as to himself, he dwells pervading the entire world with a mind imbued with equanimity, vast, exalted, measureless, without hostility, without ill will. Just as a strong conch blower can easily send his signal to the four quarters, so too, when the liberation of the mind by equanimity is developed and cultivated in this way, any limited karma that has been done does not remain there, does not persist there. So in that way, he kind of purifies his mind also. He develops his mind also. So first he takes the precepts, then he kind of develops his mind for the meditation. Then when he is doing the meditation and doing the Brahma Vihara practice, all the bad karma is also washed away. Buddha says that by doing the practice of Brahma Vihara, even if you do it for 1 minute, then you get the merits of kind of making a yagna. That is a big sacrifice. Ashwamedha yagna is a big sacrifice of they used to kind of sacrifice horses in a big fire sacrifice. So that they used to kind of believe that they have a lot of merit you can earn, and a king could earn a lot of merit. When a king is rich and powerful, then the Brahmins used to come and say that, okay, you have now the power and the money and everything. Now you conduct a yagna. Now you conduct a sacrifice, a fire sacrifice. Then they used to kind of do this fire sacrifice to earn merit for the king. So Buddha says that that sacrifice of a king, a great king, is equal to if you even do it for a minute. The practice of Brahma Viharas. So that is so much merit you will be able to gain, and then all your kind of small kammas which are there, which were the unwholesome things, will be washed away. So that is how not only he is showing how to kind of keep the precepts, but how to kind of go beyond, and that is the reason the teaching of the Buddha is Dana, Shila, and Bhavana. So he is now talking about Shila and Bhavana. So he's talking about keeping the precepts and how to develop your mind. So the Buddha is giving a kind of a complete understanding. When this was said, Asi Bhante Dhammagavesi, the headman, said to the Blessed One, magnificent Venerable Sir, magnificent. From today, let the Blessed One remember me as a lay follower who has gone for refuge for life. So this is there is a kind of a standard statement they give, like you have kind of upturned what has been previously turned upside down. You have kind of showing the way to somebody who has lost his way. You are kind of burning a light in a dark room, so the people with eyes can see what is there. So there is a phrase there. I think that phrase was kind of cut by Bhikkhu Bodhi, but it is a standard phrase which is used by the lay people when they kind of are very impressed with the Buddha. And Bhante Dhammagavesi used to say that this phrase means that the person has become a Sotapanna. That is an indication as per the commentaries. So in this way, the Buddha is kind of giving an understanding of the precepts, and he's also giving the understanding of how to go beyond precepts and do the practice of metta, karuna, mudita, upekha. That is a Brahma Vihara practice, and how that will kind of further develop your mind. So this is the sutta for today. Is there any questions? Any questions related to the sutta?
Yes. Bhante, I'm just curious. So the Buddha pointed out what was the problem with Nigantha Nataputta's doctrine about how a person goes to hell. But did the Buddha really answer the question of like what makes a person go to hell directly? Like, is it, if it's not based on the frequency of breaking the precepts, is it, for example, not taking precept just prior to passing away, or
Yeah, this is sometimes this has been mentioned by the Buddha. So now one of the things Buddha says about how you get the result of your karmic actions. The Buddha mentioned it in different ways. One way you can get the result of your karmic action is like giving an example of saying that, see, if I have a cup over here, in this cup, I put a tablespoon of salt. So if the water over here is considered to be the good karma I have done, and the tablespoon of salt is considered to be the bad actions I have done. So when I taste this, it will be very bitter. Okay. But what happens is when you put that same tablespoon of sugar in the river Ganga, okay, and then you taste the water, you will not feel a lot of saltiness. You will not feel saltiness over there, because the amount of good you have done outweighs the amount of bad you have done. So if you have done a lot of good karma and then there are a little bit of bad karma, then you will get the result in this way. So it depends on what are the composite of your actions. Your good actions and bad actions are kind of explained as the salt and the water which you have. And when you are doing a good action, you are kind of diluting your results of your bad actions. So by kind of taking the precept once again, by resolving to kind of not do those bad actions once again, and then again you are purifying your mind. You are then creating a pool of good actions, which kind of dilutes your bad actions you had done previously. And thus those results are not felt in that manner. And the karmic theory also does not kind of certain times misunderstood in the way that when you do a karmic action, okay, then that means that all actions which will happen, the bad action you have done, it will happen exactly like this. Like say if you kind of beat a dog, then you will become a dog and the dog will become the man, and then the man will beat you as you had met him. That is not kind of what the Buddha is saying that will happen. Buddha is saying that if you give pain, you will receive the pain in equal manner. You may receive a pain in the manner of maybe getting sickness, or you may be getting into trouble, and you may lose your kind of property and all these things. But you will get this in a manner that the pain you have given, that kind of pain you will get back. So in the manner you have inflicted pain, the pain you will be coming back. But it does not mean that it happens, the actions happens in the reverse order. So, and that's exactly that same dog is involved in the action to you. So the karmic working the Buddha kind of explains is very complicated. So there is a very much complication way the actions kind of come in our life. That's the reason Buddha says that only Buddha can understand the karmic workings. So and if a normal person kind of tries to understand the karmic working, then he may kind of become even mad, because it is so complicated. It cannot be kind of by logic, and this cannot be deciphered. But a broad understanding of how karmic actions can affect us is explained. And in that way, like one of the examples which is given is of Angulimala. He had kind of killed a lot of people. But after that, when he abandoned that and then he kind of purified his mind, he became an arahant. He still had to kind of face karmic actions for his bad deeds. He was kind of feared. He was also kind of beaten with sticks, and people used to throw mud at him and stones at him. And he used to get injured many times when he used to come back from his Pindapata. So he faced certain kind of actions, but they were not equal to the actions which he has done, because he kind of purified his mind. Later on, he used to kind of give blessings to the women who were kind of giving birth, who were pregnant. So then they were kind of having good births, because he was kind of sending metta to them and giving them blessings. And after that, currently also in Sri Lanka, there is a Angulimala Sutta which is read when a person is pregnant. Then they go and ask the monks to read the Angulimala Sutta. So by doing the later actions which are wholesome, then he kind of purified his bad deeds. So in this way, whenever a person does a bad deed, he can purify himself. The forgiveness aspect is also there over here, which is very clear that he forgives himself for the things which he has done. And he also forgives the situation and understands that he cannot go back and change the situation. what he can do is in the future, the current action which he does, in the future, it will affect in a better manner. So in this way, the karmic action is to be understood as what you can do in the present. And by that, what you do in the present, which is wholesome, which will create the wholesome future. And if you had done something in the past, you have to forgive yourself. And if somebody has done something to you, you have to forgive them also. Because if you don't forgive them, then you are also linked to that karmic this thing. Buddha is giving one example of a woman who had killed another woman's children. And they were kind of killing each other's children in many lifetimes, even when they are born as animals. Then one would go and kill the other's children, and then the other woman would kind of resolve to kill their children. So this was going on for many lifetimes, and when they came with a dispute to the Buddha said that you have been doing this for many lifetimes, and this will continue unless you don't forgive each other. If you forgive each other, then this will be kind of ending over here. If you don't forgive, then it will keep on going for one lifetime to another lifetime. So you have to understand this and then forgive. So the forgiveness is also a very kind of a big factor in this. Forgiving yourself, not carrying the guilt of that action, and kind of getting rid of that burden of your mind. And then also forgiving others. So not that is also kind of a dana, which is called abhay dana. So you give a dana of fearlessness. So that is the thing that we will not retaliate. We will not take revenge. When we forgive the other person, we kind of also say that we are not going to retaliate. We are not going to seek revenge. So that way we kind of cut ourselves from that karmic cycle, and we free ourselves. So that is how we have to understand the karmic things.
Thank you so much, Bhante.
Any other thing? Yes. Maria, you have a question? No. Okay. So any other questions, or we can close over here? We can share the merits. Okay, then we'll share the merits. It goes, and there is a little update. Sister Kema is a little bit better, but I think what is happening is she's getting a little bit frustrated with her situation over there in the nursing home, and currently the people who are kind of going and checking on her daily are all on vacation. So the group who are kind of checking, so till first or second they are not there. After that, one of the person, Patrick, will come, and then but I'm calling her and she's able to pick up the phone. So if somebody can call, you can call her and speak to her. She's a little bit kind of stressed now, but I hopefully after 5-6 days, situation will change once again for her. And maybe they don't have staff also that much. So that may be also the reason for her this thing. But hopefully in 5-6 days, the things will be better. So anyways, we'll share a merit to her also, and hope you keep her in your, when you're spreading Metta, keep her in your mind. Okay. May suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear-struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and may all beings find relief. May all beings share this merit that we have thus acquired for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth, Devas and Nagas of mighty power, share this merit of ours. May they long protect the Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu. Okay, and next week, I think Hugh is coming Wednesday. The next week Wednesday, Hugh is going to come for the talk. Okay. Okay, everybody. Bye. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Bye.